Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward, the podcast that reveals how to plan, achieve, and enjoy the journey of creating epic results in your life, business, health, and relationships. Here's your host, best-selling author and motivational speaker, Zander Sprague.
Hello, epic people, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Zander Sprague, and today I am honored to be joined by Mark Collins. Mark, tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, I appreciate the question, Zander, and thank you for having me in this conversation with you. What I do, I try and help people to, what I tell them is this: I try and help you to unlock and unleash the hero in hiding. So I work with individuals, business owners, guys who are looking to have the life that they believe they were created for, but they're not saying. They may be successful or somewhere in between, but they really are feeling like there's more than where they're currently at. So I have the unique opportunity to mentor, to coach, and to care for them. I'm also an author. There's a book that I wrote called Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default. You can see it over my shoulder. On a personal note, husband, father of 3 kids, and they're all adults, but we have 3 dogs that we treat like our children as well. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow, look at that. So let's take a moment and talk about your book, because it sounds like a great book.
Well, Life Mastery, the concept, the course, as well as the book, is really you trying to understand what does it look like to live authentically from who I'm created to be at the highest level I'm created for, kind of like that epic life that you talk about so often, which is amazing. So it really is wanting to unpack kind of that life that you're created for. So, I tell people the things that I teach and train and use and mentor aren't because I had a great idea for somebody else. It was a journey that I walked in. And so that journey was me overcoming insecurity, fear of failure, and how to really start to unpack, the guy I was created to be versus what my life had told me, and not using success as a substitute for it, but really authentically living from that place. And then from there, really being able to transform my life into the one I believed I could have. So that was the journey I went on. And that was kind of some of the narration that I used in the book to really help other people to kind of see the journey, the blueprint, but also understand that it's not some intellectual on a high horse telling them that I know everything and you need to catch up to me, but somebody who's been in that journey. So the great thing about the book versus my course is I get the chance to share kind of those upbringing moments, those times of, my life and what it looked like. So they start to see the man behind the conversation as well.
Absolutely. And I could certainly relate to the picture in my mind of what I want my life to be.
Yeah.
And some of the external pressures of perhaps it's parents, perhaps it's society, perhaps it's whatever. And one of the things I think you'll probably agree with, and I got a question here, which is all too often we forget that we have choice in our life, and no matter how far we've gone down a particular path. So let's take career, okay? I know I did jobs where even if I didn't admit to myself, I actually knew that I wasn't really happy in this job. It wasn't really utilizing my strengths.
Yeah.
But I need a job. I've got a family. I've got mortgage to pay. They're paying me well. But I worked in a large corporation and sort of got transitioned from where I was doing well to reorgs and stuff. All of a sudden I was doing marketing. I wasn't really all that successful because I kind of like closure theory by Gestalt, which says we feel uncomfortable when something isn't complete. And I know for myself personally, that's really true. And so in marketing, it's going well, and then there isn't closure, it's still going, or you work really hard on something and, that's not working, forget it, we're scrapping it. So I was walking around constantly frustrated that I couldn't complete these tasks that I was assigned. So my question for you is, when in your life did you utilize choice where you realized that you want to know what, for whatever reason, I'm not going down this path is not working for me?
Yeah, that's a great question, Xander. I appreciate that. I think for a lot of us, myself included, the reason why I titled my book "Life Mastery: Living Life by Design, Not by Default" is, another way of putting what you were so astutely saying is that many times we're living by default. We don't realize there's an alternative, so we're just living life we have and trying to manage it the best we can. And so for me, there was a lot of that, and really trying to figure out what does it look like to, that guy on the inside, the one I wanted to be that wasn't showing up. I started using what the world said would bring it about, right? So dealing with insecurity, fear, failure, imposter syndrome. I looked at the people who were successful, and they were wealthy, they were successful, they had their title, they had their position, their possessions, and all of that. They must have everything together, so you go for those things. And so for me, that was one of those areas where what everybody else said was going to bring you fulfillment. Going down that road, reaching that mountaintop, whatever it is for everybody, at whatever level of success you're trying, and finding out at the top of the mountain, I was no different than the guy at the bottom, except that the imposter syndrome and the fear of failure came along for the ride. And so for me, there was a pivot of understanding. So if there is the truth that I believe I am more than what I'm living, the person I'm being, the decisions I'm making, and this isn't the way, then there needed to be a pivot, a change in figuring out, well, if that didn't do it, then what does?
Right.
And so for me, that was where Life Mastery came from, was really more of a faith journey, a understanding of, okay, well, if I'm not my successes, and that certainly isn't the answer, and I'm not the sum total of my experiences in my past, they're things I've walked through. They're not an identity statement I have to take. So then how can I unleash that guy that I am, the person I believe I can be, with confidence and assurance and passion and purposefulness in my life? And so that was the beginning of the journey, and trying what the world said would work. And when it didn't, trying to find an alternative to get there.
Right. And did you find that when you started that ultra scary, but you had to be brave moment where you started to go after what it is that you wanted, doesn't matter what the world says, did you find that those first couple of steps were not nearly as difficult as you had imagined them to be? You kind of, you get where I'm going with this? Like, it does begin with one step forward, and oftentimes that first step isn't as hard as we imagine when we think about making a change.
No, I think that's really astute as well, because the biggest challenge is the decision. That's the one with me where there's all the angst and all the mental wrestling match that's going on, and trying to, shouldn't I, is this right? What happens if it doesn't work, and all of that. But when you start to take that step forward, well, then there's some momentum that's being made. But it's really because you've planted a flag and said, I'm moving forward. And, even if it's the wrong path, this is the path I'm choosing. And I've been there, I'm wrong path, right path, and anywhere in between. But it is the mental decision to get there, to make that first step, that's much more challenging than actually jumping in and starting in whatever that step is. Knowing that initially you're not going to know everything, but what you do know is what's next. And when you take that next, then the next one comes after that, and then you build momentum, and you start to see, looking back, there's been some change or transformation or whatever the goal is. For me, it was unleashing the man I believed I could be. And so you start to see that guy showing up, and that builds up momentum to do it once more.
And who is, Mark, who is the man you were meant to be? You keep talking about it, and I'm just so curious to what was the picture that you had in your mind or in your heart that you are like, here's who I'm supposed to be?
Well, and I guess you can do it in the positive or the negative. The negative version of it is, I'm not that guy who's fearful. I'm not that guy who's a failure waiting to happen. Really, what I tell people, Zander, is you're either living from who you're created to be or what your life has told you. And you'd mentioned some things earlier, parents and experiences and background and painful times and horrible decisions you may have made, right? There's this whole litany of life that we've lived. And the challenge is that it has a voice that many times we're going to listen to. And the outcome of that is you start to believe that's who you are, and you start to live from that place. And so for me, it was really unpacking some of those things. And so who is Mark? Well, Mark's a man of compassion and worth. Mark's a man of character and desire. He's a man who finishes the things he starts, who's all in and all the way on the things that matter to him and the people that matter to him as well. It's really a character statement or identity statement, which is the foundation of the work we do. It starts with an identity statement. It's not my resume of accomplishments. It's not what the world has told me and maybe my past has told me I am. It's the person that you're showing up as, that man of character and worth, that woman who is confident in who she is. The thing that makes a difference in everything that you do, whether it's in your business, your life, your relationships, is the man or that woman that shows up. And so what I tell the folks that I work with is your identity statement, which again, we work on, is a character statement. It's not an accomplishment statement.
Yeah.
Because many times we use accomplishment as a substitute for it. And then what happens when you fail? What happens when you lose that job? What happens when your business goes down? All of a sudden, there's this identity crisis. But when you walk in understanding it's your character that matters, then you get to show up as that person you're created to be. And what I tell people is this: you're the answer walking in the room. You're not the question to be figured out. When you understand that and live from that, you'll start to see the results of that.
Absolutely. And I think an important part I talk about my book is failure is part of the journey. Okay.
Yeah.
We are going to, folks, we are going to fail at things that we try. And I find this, I guess the sort of the mental health professional in me looks at it. I naturally look at situations and go, why is that? And so in working with people on their epic goals, people get stuck. They get, making that decision. Oh, should I? It's scary. It's yeah, you're right. And that stops them from doing it. And Mark, when you got up this morning, you did not have all the answers to every question you're going to get today. You're going to fail at something today.
Yeah.
But it didn't stop you from getting out of bed. It doesn't stop most people from getting out of bed every single day. So I'm like, but where's the difference? I mean, I don't know about you, but I've had many, many, many days where I got up and the day there were parts of the day that just did not go well, but it didn't stop me the next morning from getting out of bed. Yeah. And yet, when people are wanting to make a change, they become aware that they're like, this isn't working for me. They somehow stop, and I'm like, but why? Yes, you're going to fail. I joke all the time that as an entrepreneur, I've been incredibly generous buying tools that are going to help me do my business better. And they're not that they're bad tools. They're just not the right tool for me.
Yeah.
If we're doing any home repair, you go, oh, I need a screwdriver. If you grab the wrong size Phillips head, do you go, oh my God, I'm such a fat, I can't do this. I can't do this repair. You're like, no, I actually needed a smaller screwdriver. I don't know. I mean, you get where I'm going with this whole.
Yeah, absolutely. What I tell the folks that I work with is failure is either an experience that you are walking through or it's an identity statement that you've taken.
Yeah.
Because Zander, like I do, the challenge isn't whether my experience is successful or a failure. It's what does it say about me? It's not whether my marriage worked out or didn't work out. It's what does that failure of that relationship say about me, right? It's the identity statement that you take from it that makes you decide whether it's something you can live and grow from or something that is going to identify you that stops you from doing it the next time.
Right.
And so again, yeah, I hate to keep beating it over the head with this, but it's all, to me, in the work that we do, it's all about identity. When you know who you are apart from your outcomes, then whatever your outcome is, it's something you can take from it, learn from it, grow from it, or celebrate. But it doesn't stop you because it's just another step towards, one step forward. It's that next step towards learning the next time. My wife and I've had successful business. We had a successful business before I started doing this work full time. And we sold that business for a quality profit. Well, that was the fifth business. The first four were learning experiences and challenges to walk through, but all of them brought us to a place of doing that. And what most folks don't realize is when you look at the life you've had, you can look at the failures and the successes in your life as equal stepping stones towards that life. You learn from both of them if you don't let them stop you.
Absolutely. And you're talking about identity, and I think identity is great. I think all too often people forget that we are multi-dimensional creatures, and we are not just one thing. You are an author. You are a speaker. You are an entrepreneur. You are a father. You are a husband. You are a son. You may be a brother. You're not just one of these things. if one part of that doesn't quite work out, it doesn't stop the rest of who you are. And, it's so important. You were talking about whether we view something good or bad, right?
Yeah.
And I remember years ago, I was taking a coaching course and I read a book, and I'm not going to get it right, but it was like, the Buddhist and the diamond cutter or something. And out of the whole book, the nugget I took away was this Buddhist sort of belief that there isn't, things are not inherently good or bad. It's how we interpret it. So
Right.
I'll give a really common example. It's a beautiful sunny day today. Now, the sun being out does not inherently make it good or bad, but I guess my perspective on it, I go, oh, this is great. I can be outside. But if I live someplace, I'm a farmer and there's a drought and the sun is out, I may view that as a bad thing.
Yeah.
But inherently, the sun being out isn't good or bad. Whatever happens to us, whether we get laid off from a job, a relationship ends, a business doesn't quite succeed, a child of ours makes a choice that we do not want them to make, whatever. How we interpret it is really how we're going to deal with it.
No, absolutely. And it's kind of in alignment with some of the things we teach. We have 4 pillars of life mastery. It's like identity, experience, meaning, and emotion.
Yeah.
And the one you're talking about there, what you take from it is what I call the meaning of that experience. It's not the experience you walk through. It could be good. It could be horrific. It could be somewhere in between. But what's the meaning that you're taking from it? Because that meaning will not only give you an emotion to attach to it, but give you a response to use the next time you come across that thing, whatever it is. And so when, again, life by design, and the thing you talked about earlier, the choice, you have a choice to determine the meaning. It doesn't have to be determined for you.
Right.
You and I know, Zander, and I'm sure you've probably read books from people who have had horrific journeys in their life, and yet they took a meaning out of it that empowered them, that uplifted them, that moved them forward in a positive way. And we've also had friends who maybe had what you would consider a fairly minor circumstance in their life, and yet they relive that circumstance and tell you about it and remind you about it and live from that place for years to come. It's not the experience itself that, on the tragedy scale, whatever it's at, it's what's the meaning that you're taking from it. And it doesn't minimize the experience. It doesn't say bad stuff didn't happen and it didn't hurt. But what I tell people is, I just don't want it to tell you who you are anymore.
Absolutely. You could see over my shoulder one of my books, Why Don't They Cry? I speak a lot about sibling loss. I wrote a book for siblings, the Why Don't They Cry is for parents to understand their living child's grief. And I work with a lot of people who have lost siblings and do grief work and stuff. And what I like to say is choose to define whatever the loss is and don't have it define you. 28 years ago, my older sister was murdered. That is horrific. I'm working my way through that. I will never get over losing her, but I'm doing a pretty good job of working my way through it. Some days better than others. That's true of anything.
Sure.
But her loss does not define my whole entire life. But you're right. There are the people who, even something that should be fairly on the whole scale of things, not a major thing. Let's say someone was in a car accident, but not a bad one, just a little fender bender. And for the next 10 years, they're just living in that trauma of, I was hit by a car. Well, okay. Yes, you were in a car, someone else hit you. That's terrible.
Yeah.
But they put their whole life on hold for 10 years. And you're like, but your life is a participatory sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't, whether I participate in my life today or not, it's still going on. It's still progressing.
No, absolutely. And I'm sorry to hear about that loss in your life. To be honest as well, because a lot of times people give you ideas and strategies to move forward and you feel like they've never been where you're at. To share from my own life as well, I've been in that place as well. My wife and I lost our youngest daughter's 26. So two years before that, so 28 years ago, my wife and I lost twin daughters.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I appreciate that. And it was a horrible time, much like with your sister and probably a multitude of people who are on here. And it was a challenge to get through. And so grief takes its own time. And I'm not saying you should get over it in a moment, but at some point there's a ability to reflect back and to find meaning in it that can help you move forward. For us, that meaning was in that loss and not knowing anyone who went through it, finding people around us who would support us at that time, and then being able to, years later in our own life with younger folks that we have the opportunity to have a relationship with, in investing in them from a place of experience and knowing what they're walking through. While I wouldn't have chosen this gift or the ability to know what they're walking through, I've chosen to take something from it that can help somebody else. I don't have a meaning or a reason for why our daughters died or your sister was murdered, but there's something I can pull from it that I can benefit somebody else and add to it in a way that drives me forward in a positive way. So whatever you're walking through, I just believe if I was to talk to somebody individually, small or big thing in their life, I believe you're more than what you've experienced. And if you can find something to move forward in it, to use it as an empowering thing in your life at some level, in some way, you'll find a life that is much richer than if you don't.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I talk all the time about choosing a positive pathway. Find the thing that can be the lemonade, the silver lining, whatever you want to call it. Because I think it is so important to, I don't know, there's such power in choice.
Yeah.
And saying, so we'll take our mutual losses, right? Every day you can choose whether you want to talk about your twin daughters or not. And on a day you choose not to, doesn't mean you never want to talk about them. It's just today is not the day.
Yeah.
And, even in all of our lives, when our choices are crap and crappier, and we've all been there.
Yeah.
There is self-empowerment in saying, I wish I had a third choice. I don't. I am choosing this. It's not what I want, but I'm choosing there's some self-empowering, like I didn't just let stuff happen.
Yeah.
I chose this. I wish I had another choice, but I don't.
No, absolutely. But that is a choice. It's that, like I talked about, right? Life by design is understanding that I don't have to just allow myself to manage my life and those things that are coming at me. It's being able to understand that I have a choice in how I interpret it, what I take from it, the meaning I have from it, and the thoughts and the ideas that I want to empower and encourage in my own life. For us, a lot of the work we do starts with your thoughts, mastering your thoughts, right? Yeah. I tell people, who you think you are, you'll become. And it comes back to some of those things we've talked about. I could ruminate on those things that have gone wrong in my life, those things that haven't happened, those challenges that, led to a failure or a downturn or whatever the thing is. I could always ruminate on those, or I could find those things, right? Whatever is right and good and joyful, meditate on these things. If I can find good in my day, finding good in the sun and the sunshine or what have you, choosing happy, choosing empowering, then you start to find that those choices are easier. It starts to build momentum towards a life that makes you feel that way all the time. You're not having to stress your way towards it. You're not having to work at it all the time. You actually find that guy, that woman showing up, and it's an amazing life to have.
Yeah. I one of the things I talk about all the time, I'm sure people who listen regularly, like, oh my God, here he goes again. But anyway, I love talking. I call it my 97-3 rule, which is that I believe that 97% of your day is good, and up to 3% isn't so good. Yes, we all have days where it's a lot higher. I get that. But in general, there's so much good happening in your life. And yet when you ask someone how their day was, they focus on that 3%. And to give it a sort of a more clear, like, what am I talking about and stuff, is when I was going for my licensing as a mental health professional, I had to do 3,000 hours of internship, and I was working in a middle school and high school based program. And I had my clients, a lot of them had academic challenges along with other things. And to help them sort of put stuff in the proper perspective, especially with teenagers, right? I'd ask them what their least favorite subject was. So I'll do the exercise with you, Mark. In high school, what was your least favorite subject?
Math.
Okay, absolutely. I'm right there with you. So if you got a 97 on a math test, how would you feel?
Great.
Yeah. You'd be ecstatic. You'd be telling your parents, you'd be telling your friends, you'd be just so joyful. Would you be complaining about the 3 points you didn't get? No. So, and again, the psychologist in me goes, oh, that's interesting. Why are human beings focusing on the things that just didn't go right and wholesale ignoring all of the good that's going on?
Yeah.
Do you know baseball any?
A little bit.
A little. Okay.
Casual fan.
So to make to make it into the Hall of Fame, you have to have a lifetime batting average of over 300. And I'm not like discounting how challenging that is. But imagine you're doing some sort of work for 9 hours. You're living your life for 9 hours. In order for it to be a Hall of Fame day, you only have to get it right for 3 hours out of that 9.
Yeah.
That's not I don't know about you. That does not seem like a particularly high bar to have to clear to go. I had a Hall of Fame day. Mark, how was your day? Hall of Fame day, let me tell you. 6 hours, complete train wreck, didn't get anything done. In the 3 hours I did do it, I got stuff done. Hall of Fame day. It is about the perspective and how we choose to look at things. But I just want to encourage people, as I think you are too, which is how you view it makes all the difference. And the person that you want to be, they're right there, been there the whole time.
Yeah.
You just have to claim it, and you just have to say, here's who I am. Also, don't be the meanest person in your life. We tend to, oh my gosh. We all say we say horrible things to ourselves. You can't do it. You're not going to be successful. You failed at this. You didn't accomplish this. Don't be that person. Be your number one cheerleader.
No, absolutely. There's nobody of any success at any level who has been their own worst critic. They've all been their biggest fan. And it doesn't mean they're delusional. It just means that they're factual and seeing, like you said, focusing on the 3 hours of the day, focusing on the 300 batting average, which means you've struck out a vast much more than you've hit a home run, hit a base hit, or what have you. But at the end of the day, it's the fortitude and seeing the good and to being unwilling to give up, which is really the biggest thing. Whatever life throws at you, if you're unwilling to settle for that, I believe you'll have that life. It's, again, you could talk about anybody. You could talk about Thomas Edison and the thousands of experiments for one light bulb. But that one light bulb changed the world. And it wasn't because of the fortitude. It was the man unwilling to give up at every single one of those. And by the way, I mean, I don't know if it's truth or, myth, but it said that somebody asked him one time, how could you, keep going when you failed, 900 times in creating a light bulb? He said, I didn't fail 900 times. I found 900 ways not to do it.
Absolutely.
Until I found the one way to do it.
Yeah. And, but like anything, think about, you know how to write. I know how to write. But when in kindergarten, first grade, learning how to write an A, a B, a C was incredibly difficult. We didn't give up because it got hard. You just kept at it. You learned how to ride a bike. You fell off. You didn't master it. All of a sudden, your brain picked up on how to balance, and you're off and riding.
Yeah.
We all need to keep, like, all the answers we've already had them in our life. We just have to remember that we have so many epic successes. We just need to remember and remind ourselves that, sometimes it's going to take, the path to your epic journey is going to take time. Yeah,
absolutely. No, I was going to say there's a couple of ways that I really try and cement it with the people I work with. One is I ask them, along with our I am statement, which is your identity statement, is to have them create a celebration list.
Yeah.
I've created 100. I've asked them to create 20. And it's not a celebration list of the things you've done. It's the answer to this question, what do you love about you?
Mm-hmm.
And so in that celebration list, it helps you to stop being negative, start seeing your failures, or start seeing things about you, not accomplishments. For me, I love the fact that I have blue eyes. I love the fact that I love chocolate and I like goofy humor, right? These are all just attributes of who I am, but it's not something I've had to attain. It's literally me celebrating a part about me.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
And the other one's the accomplishment list. I've written 110, and Zander, when you've written 20, maybe 30, you've taken all the marquee stuff in your life off. When I got to 70, 90, I was writing stuff like, not I graduated from college, which I did, but I graduated from junior high school. I owned, 10 vehicles and 5 homes, and right. It's these minor victories in your life. And what I find with people is when you start to see that you're winning on a daily basis by getting up, by showing up to the thing you're doing, whether it's school or work or whatever, right? By doing the standard things in life, you're continuing to build success in your life, but we discount it, not realizing that the people, so just take Olympic athletes. Olympic athletes get to the Olympic level because they celebrate the daily sacrifice. They celebrate the things that they're doing on a daily basis and those minor wins in their life, because they know that builds momentum towards their ultimate goal. If you can't celebrate the small things, the small victories, the ordinary victories in your life, many times you can't celebrate the big ones. But when you can celebrate the small ones, you start to see that 300 batting average.
Yeah.
You start to see more and more of the truth of the things you're doing right in your life. And in that place, you give yourself grace for those times when it doesn't work out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So many things. And I got to meet a Olympic swimmer. He was from New Zealand, won a bronze medal. And his thing, he said, 13 years for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
He trained 13 years for 30 seconds, which was his race. And he out-touched someone by, like literally 1/100th of a second. His finger was just that much longer than the person who came in fourth. And I was like, wow, that is so true. And the fact that and I know they say it all the time, but everyone who makes it to the Olympics, that's pretty darn cool. You are an Olympian for life, whether you medaled or not.
Pretty yeah, absolutely. Cool. No, absolutely. And that's a great perspective to have. There's many people who would love to be in the position you are, whatever that position is. Doesn't mean there can't be more and higher level goals and visions that you have. Absolutely. That's what we talk about, living at the highest level you're created for, because I think that's where fulfillment comes in. But absolutely. It's understanding that you are currently in a place that's worth celebrating. You're currently a person who's worth celebrating. And in that place, I think you give yourself the grace, like I said before, for the failures and those times when it doesn't work out, but you give yourself the momentum towards those things that I believe more people want than don't, which is the person I believe I can be to actually show up and have that life.
Absolutely. Mark, you and I could probably go on for hours here. This has been a great conversation. How can people get a hold of you, find your book, work with you?
I appreciate you asking, Zander. So I try and be a one-stop shop, and my one-stop is the website I have, which is freedom-for-life.net, freedom-for-life.net. You can find my course out there, Life Mastery. You can find an ebook version of my book, so you could have it on any device you have. My book, of course, is on Amazon, probably like yours, Zander's, because everything's on Amazon.
It is.
And if you have questions about Life Mastery, if it's for you and how to move forward with it, you can reach out to me at Mark, M-A-R-K, at freedom-for-life.net.
All righty. And I will have that URL in the show description if people are looking for it. Mark, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come in and have what has truly been an epic conversation.
It's been a great conversation. I really appreciate it, Zander.
Not a problem. If you're ready to begin your epic journey, go to epicbegins.com. And remember that epic choices lead to the epic life that you want.
Get your gift copy of the award-winning book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward, at epicbegins.com. That's a wrap on this episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward with your host, Zander Sprague, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed public speaker, and licensed professional clinical counselor. To make your next conference or event epic, send an email to Zander at zander@epicbegins.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, epic choices, epic life.